Thank you, Senator Trudeau, for joining. This is Road to LitFest. As you know, the Tacoma Literature Festival is coming on May 2nd, but we launched this series in February because we got so much of response, so many proposals, sessions, workshop, that we just couldn't accommodate. There was no way we could accommodate that many proposals on one day. So we decided that why don't we just start Road to LitFest? On our way to the LitFest, we'll host community events, we'll do online sessions, so we have been hosting 2 to 3 events every week since February on our way to the LitFest. So I'm so grateful. I'm so delighted that you have joined us today. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for putting this on. And I don't know if you knew this before our time together, but I am an avid reader and lover of books, and so I'm actually quite excited about this entire experience and an entire event in Tacoma. I'm very excited.
Thank you. I have heard you several times at the community events, and I could tell that you are an avid reader. You have quoted things that you enjoyed, and of course, in your position, you read a lot and you always quote. So I'm very excited. Thank you for joining us. We would love to learn about some of the influences that you had, what you read, what kind of stuff you like. But let's get started with kind of books that you read. What do you enjoy reading?
Yeah, as a mother of two small children, most of the books that I actually take the time to read are some of the classics. I get to go back now. My son is 7, and we are reading things like The Hobbit, which I loved as a child. I read The Hobbit avidly. We haven't got branched out into the full Lord of the Rings series yet, but so I'm very much into fantasy at the moment because I'm seeing it again through a child's eyes. So that's sort of my current reality, which is a nice counter to the political world in many ways. But on my own, I really I love reading books that make me think about another perspective. I like books that take me into another reality, and sort of through lived experience. So I've got a number of books that I could talk about in that way, but one that I recently read was The Bluest Eye. And that was a very interesting perspective into race in America through the experience, of child abuse and other things that I thought was just a fascinating read.
And is there any book that really sort of truly moved you and that something that you reread repeatedly?
Yeah, there's a book called God Save the Child
Hmm.
that I felt was very impactful for me and how I thought about many of my experiences, and it really helped me probably work through some childhood traumas more than any kind of therapy could, quite frankly. It really gave me some
Yeah.
insight into the strength of children and the human experience, and so that was a very, very moving book. There was also another one called See No Stranger. The last name is Carr, Kaur. I
Valerie,
apologize. Yeah,
Valerie,
yeah. There you
Valerie
go.
Kaur. Yeah,
Valerie Carr. I remember her
yeah,
story. It taught me so
yeah,
much about, Sikh farmers and their presence in
yeah.
America. And I love the idea that we can exist in a world where we can just be curious about each other as a starting point. And so that was really impactful for me. I read that actually shortly after I got appointed to the legislature. So that one in particular.
So that's a lovely book. And Valerie was in Tacoma not too long ago.
Oh,
She was a
you'll have to
guest
tell her to
for.
let me know next time. I would love to meet her. I have been talking about her book to other legislators as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful book. She was here as part of Tacoma Reads, the program that the city of Tacoma does.
Amazing.
But you mentioned curiosity. Very often, Senator, we become curious because of people we are surrounded with. People
Mm,
inspire us to do things, especially reading and characters
mm.
and the impact that we want to make. Who were your inspirations? Who inspired you, especially for reading in and around your family?
Yeah, so I have a very mixed experience in the sense that I come from two vastly different worlds. My father was educated here in America and had access to all the books, right? He went up to a PhD level. Um, And my mother, on the other hand, is from a village in Bangladesh, never had the chance to learn to read or write. Often as she was a single mother when I was younger, and I would often have to help her fill out things and paperwork. And so it's interesting because I always admired the academic sort of call to books. I felt that call. I wanted to read, I wanted to learn. I was always that curious kid. But the inspiration is the idea that my mom never got the chance to experience that joy and that, I want to say safety almost, because you really can kind of hide in a book in a way that you can't doing almost anything else. You can kind of go
Mm-hmm.
hide away and be in your own little world in a way that doesn't exist in almost every other space. So she's my real inspiration for why I talk about reading, why I try to tell my children about the joy of reading, and why I'm doing things like this to get other people excited about books and reading, because I do feel like she always instilled in me how important it was, even though she didn't get that chance. And I think there's something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But talk more about that. What is it? What did she do that instilled that love of reading in you?
Well, one, she always said, you have the chance, right? You
Mhm.
have the chance. You have the books. You have the opportunity. You have the, ability to go to school to learn it. And I think just instilling that little bit of like hope and possibility is a really big deal in a child, especially one that is maybe experiencing um, a lot in the world around them that they don't understand. I would often find myself just sometimes even reading books at the dinner table because I really wanted to zone out and just be in the space that felt good and safe to me. And I was often as a kid reading books that were very different. Like the experiences were so different from my own. And I can talk about some of those books, some of the classics that you read as a kid. But yeah, I mean, I think the power of just saying, hey, I didn't get this, but I want you to have it. I don't even understand it, but I know that it's something important is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gift.
Yeah, and that's so precious to hear it from your own mother.
It
It
is.
coming
It
out from your mom's mouth, it impacts us so much more than it coming out from somewhere else.
does.
But but why do you think she was so insistent on that? What made her realize the value of something that she herself did not experience directly?
My mother and I have had very difficult experience in relationship, but I think one thing that I will always credit her towards is that she wanted us to have more. She wanted us to have a more robust life experience. She wanted us to seek out things that she didn't get to experience. And I think as a child, especially, I think she justified it in some ways because reading is good for you. So it's the way it's better than saying, okay, go watch a movie or sit in front of the TV. So I think it was both a way to keep my curious mind occupied because
Uh-huh.
also I asked a lot of questions as a kid, which I recognize now having a daughter that asks a lot of questions. Um, what it must feel like to not have all the answers,
Mm-hmm.
how confusing and maybe even demoralizing that can be to know that you can't provide all the answers for a curious child, but to say, well, I know if you're reading, then you're finding the answers in a way that I can support. It's helping you academically and it's helping you like it doesn't take it doesn't take somebody with a degree to understand that when you walk into a library, there's a power there. There's something to that that exists. And so I think that's something that I'll always credit my mom for knowing that there was
Mm-hmm.
something there and just at least having enough insight to guide us toward it.
And is there something that you have read recently or in the past, a book or an article or something that has reminded you of your mother and also things that she wanted you to develop in you through reading? Is there
Hmm.
something any read that you go back to that gives you the sense of belonging or sense of identity?
There isn't anything that I feel like I've read that calls to me and my full experience. I feel like I've gathered stories from different spaces that have certainly helped me guide or given me a guide at certain points in my life. But one thing I'll expose to you here, which is very vulnerable for me, is that I've been in the process of writing my own book. And so I have actually finally completed a proposal.
That's
Even saying it
wonderful.
out
Many
loud makes me so
congratulations.
deeply uncomfortable. I will be honest, that is not what I planned to talk about, but I actually just finalized the proposal in the last week. So
Uh-huh.
I have been working through trying to figure out how to bring some of those snapshots of my own life and drawing on the ways that these other books that I've read, like how they've allowed me to talk about it that I
Mm-hmm.
probably would never be able to talk about without those tools. And so now I'm going back through and I'm writing chapters of my life and snapshots of mine and my mom's experience together. And so I am in a journey right now that I would have never expected, or if you'd asked me a year ago, I would be in. So
Oh,
I'm
that's so wonderful.
writing more, reading a little bit less. If it doesn't work out, we shall never speak of it again. But
Is
everyone
there?
often, when I talk about my life experience, says, wow, there's some things that are so relatable, but some things that are so kind of unique or stand out. I mean, I don't know how many other Bengali Scandinavians you've met,
Mhm.
but we're kind of like unicorns out there in the world. So I figure
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of Bengali Scandinavians that are going to read my book since they don't exist. But maybe other people want to understand what that experience was, especially given the unique places that both of my parents come from. They're not the sort of regular experience or average
Mhm.
experience for anyone. So,
Well, don't give all of it, but give us some sense of, what can we expect in the book? What
well,
are
I think
you, in terms of story, especially,
mm,
if someone were to come to me and say, "What is the story of Yasmin Trudeau?"
mm.
And tell us very briefly, how would you like that question to be answered by someone else on your behalf, or if you were to answer that question?
Thank you. I'm hoping the book will allow people to see a more dynamic and complex version of me. So I'm not even sure sometimes how to fully talk about myself. And I feel like this book is a way to do that. It's a way to get out in the world, everything to allow people to have a more deeper understanding of who I am. And so I think that's what I want to get across to people is a story of hope, something that folks can relate to. I want them to see the depth of experience, but also the power of luck. And I think the opportunity to see how we can create more luck for folks. And kind of, everyone asks me sometimes with everything you've been through, what's the magic? Like what
Hmm.
what about you is so different that got you to be a senator as opposed to a lot of young people that have adverse childhood experiences and end up in a totally different place? And I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. But I hope that my experiences, I hope the book will allow people to see how other people influenced me, how the way that I looked at life in different points and who spoke to me and what called to me, what book I read at that time. Gave me the opportunity to think more for myself, like to think I could achieve something beyond just myself. And so I think that that's why I'm at that point. So I don't know how to exactly answer your question, but what I hope is that people see that there is something beautiful that can come from anything, and that every journey is a continued struggle. There's no end point
Hmm.
to the struggle. There's no magic that happens all of a sudden and people realize that they're capable. It's life is a series of things that happen to you that shape you. And so I kind of want to offer it out to allow people to think about it for themselves.
Hmm.
As a politician, I have to climb on a soapbox and tell people what I think about things and what they should think about things, which is already difficult for me to do because I think politics should be more dialogue anyway. And so I want this book to be that story that people can maybe shape how they think of me for themselves. Is that so? It's sort of a long-winded, not very succinct answer, but it is very there. It's got some things in there that I think will rattle some cages, and
Hmm.
culturally, religiously, um, but that are important.
No,
They're truth.
yeah. No, you gave us the direction. So thank you for sharing it. We're looking forward to the book. But you mentioned, as you at the beginning of that response, you said seen, to be seen
Mm,
or to be heard, and that is so important. To feel that you're seen, to know that you're seen, to know that you're heard, that somebody's listening to you, that somebody cares
yeah.
about what you're saying. In other words, our stories being important, stories that matter. Um, what do you think makes people seen and
Mm.
makes people heard, especially if and you also mentioned Bengali. Before you answer that question, I should have asked that earlier. When you say Bengali, do you identify yourself as Bengali? Are you
I do.
as a person, or you were referring to language?
No, I refer to myself as so when I talk about myself, I talk about myself as a mixed race Bengali Scandinavian American. Okay. So I describe
Yeah.
all of who I am because it is true.
Hmm.
Um, my mother is Bengali. I grew up eating Bengali food. I grew up eating or speaking the Bengali language. That was my first language. I was born in Dhaka. I love to travel to Bangladesh. I don't like the city so much, but I absolutely love there's something to it that has always spoken to me, and the connection to my mom
Hmm.
has always been very real. I also very much recognize that when people see me, they don't think Bengali. And so I think it's important to name, that I am a mixed race person, but my culture and how I'm rooted was shaped very much by all of the values and things that came from Bangladesh. That being said, I am obnoxiously American when I go to
Hmm.
Bangladesh. So that is here everybody's like my Bengali friend because there's not a lot of Bengalis. So
Yeah.
I sufficed until you meet a real Bengali and then you're like, you don't look Bengali. And then it's a whole nother, that's why I'm just upfront about it now. But when I was younger, I always just said I'm Bengali.
Uh-huh.
And quite frankly, if I said I was Scandinavian, people looked confused. So I, you got to lean in when you're mixed to the least amount of questions that come up is the best when you're younger because you don't know how to answer them. But no, I am. I identify as being Bengali. I identify, although I'm not hyper religious, as being Muslim. Those are just foundational to who I am, the same way that people grow up and are born into certain cultures and religions, and they're foundational to who they are too. They don't define them, but they're foundational to who they are. So that's how I would describe that.
And before you answer that question, what makes us seen and what makes us heard? Let's talk about a little bit more about Bengali. You're getting me
Sure.
excited because I have some very close cousins who are Bengali. They're from north of India, but their
Mm.
father, my mom's side, my mom's distant cousin, got a job at Allahabad Bank
Oh.
in Kolkata. And they all moved. So they
Mm.
practically became Bengali. They learned the language, they speak Bengali to each other. They are very Bengali now.
And
There's
Bengali is a
two,
thing. For
there's
people
two.
that know, it is not the same as Indian, it's not the same as Pakistani. So thank you.
No, no,
We all
Bengal.
have
I
our,
mean, those who
yeah.
are listening to us and those who don't know Bengal, and I can totally speak for the Bengal, the state in India. Bengal is one of the most literal, a state which is very rich in literacy. Some of our
Mm.
best writers, including the Nobel Prize winner Rabindranath Tagore, he was from
Hmm.
Bengal. And Bengal is a place where there are lots of bookstores. If you go to Kolkata, which
Absolutely.
is the capital of West Bengal in India, the state, there are lots of bookstores. And you go to bookstores, there are long lines.
Hmm.
You don't see that in very many places. You go to other cities, there are long lines in other kinds of shops. But bookstores are mostly empty. But in Bengal, that's not the case. When a new book comes, the city gets excited. So there is a
Mm.
very long and rich uh, history in Bengal. And we in India, I grew up in New Delhi. When we heard someone is Bengali, we just assumed, oh, he's a scholar or she's a scholar or they read a
Mm.
lot. We can ask questions from this person. Oh, he's from Bengal. Can you tell me this? They were like our Google before Google. That was just the assumption because they really did read a lot.
Yeah.
So,
No,
so
it's
that's
true.
Bengal to us.
And the language, has always been really important. Like writing, reading, the language of Bengali, is a very much part of the identity. It's interesting though because the country of Bangladesh has, when my mother was small, had very high illiteracy rates, particularly for women. And that has also rapidly changed. We see in that region where more and more, I mean, when you see the literacy rate, especially amongst women and girls, and also the education rate that has increased so rapidly. I mean, I have a cousin now who comes from the same village as my mom. I support her, and she's seeking a law degree in Dhaka. So she, I think there's so many things. That's that hope, that possibility. What we do when we offer something to folks, I bet a lot of readers would not assume that sort of literacy, love of books being associated with Bengal. And I love that you're bringing up areas of the world too, because sometimes American supremacy, we focus a lot here, and so the chances to let other people know about the worlds outside of what's right in front of us, and how we're all sort of connected through books in that way. I really appreciate that. Many people don't know enough of the background for me to ever have a robust conversation. So
Oh no, thank you so much. You brought it up, and I had classmates back home in Delhi where I studied filmmaking. Half of my class, I think, or a little bit less than half, were from Bengal, and they were so well read. So sometimes it sounds like a stereotype that you're calling the whole community well read and they always read their professor. But it's true. They just read. I mean, there is a culture of reading. There are books, and people love to preserve that habit of reading. As
Mhm.
you were saying, having young kids and trying to do things so that they keep reading and they fall in love with read. And I think that has been a culture. It's very much a
Yeah,
part of the cultural ecosystem. And I can speak for the Bengal that I have experienced, not the state or not the country
yeah,
of Bangladesh. But for those of you who may not know, Bangladesh was part of India. It got separated, so it became a separate state. But culturally, they are almost identical.
similar.
You go to Bangladesh or you
Mhm.
go to India and West Bengal, very similar people,
Very
same
similar.
language, and a lot of overlap. Okay, but
Yeah,
let
imperialism created some interesting boundaries,
yeah, and
and
I
we
think it did. And I think some of the common love is has helped overcome those boundaries, like love
yeah,
for reading, love for literature, love of some of the authors. Arundhati Roy, for example, is a very well
yeah,
known, very solid name. Um,
absolutely.
uh, let's go back to that question of being seen and being heard.
Mm.
What do you think makes people seen or heard?
I think the ability to, well, I mean, I think being seen and heard are similar, but a little bit different. I think for me, being seen is when I walk into a place and people can understand all of me at once. A lot of times people really want to create a caricature of me,
Mhm,
depending on what they know about me, partially because they may not know about my background or the nuance in it, or may not know much about being Bengali, or may not, whatever or Muslim, that gets a lot of stereotypes in
mhm,
America. So I think for me, it's just I want to be seen as Yasmin. I think every person wants to be seen for who they are, and not the um, images or stereotypes or things that they may carry. Now, some of us might lean into them in our own way.
mhm.
There are many cultural stereotypes that me and my family joke about. At the end of the day, though, we still want to be seen for ourselves. I'm still, in addition to being a senator, I'm a mom, I'm a pretty big nerd. I like gaming. I like things that are just things that I don't even think of as far as like race and culture and other things. All of us want to be ourselves when we go home at the end of the day and kick our shoes off and just feel like we did the best we could, and people saw us for however we showed up that day. So that to me is being seen. I think being heard is when someone is speaking, is someone giving me the space for my words to land? Like, are they, sometimes you can speak and people will want to speak over you, or they will want to undermine what you're saying, or they want to ignore you. And I think when I would just say, when I speak to people, when people come into my office, or when I'm speaking to people that are really passionate about something or want to, I try to just give them that space where I am curious and I haven't
Mm.
already started putting what I think in front of what they're saying. And I think that is the important thing about being heard. And that's the power of books. It's you can't debate while you're reading. You just have to read it and you have to think about it. And you might have questions with yourself. But I think it's just presented. The story is there. And then you have to hear it because you're reading it. So I think that's why I'm so interested in being seen and heard through a book because that's allowed me to see and hear people in a totally different way. Where my life might have been frantic or I'm trying to survive or you don't get to experience people when you're
Mhm.
surviving. You barely get to experience yourself, quite frankly, while you're surviving. So I think being seen and heard is really that, being able to just recognize every person is their own person, regardless of what things they might carry into the room. They started off that way, they're still that way, they're gonna, you know. Um, so I hope people can I really hope that people can get those experiences. And I am really concerned that we move farther and farther away about the excitement of books because everything is so bite-sized right
Mhm.
now. Everything is a snapshot, which is harming us politically, big time, harming us socially. And if a lot of people, I think, could just take the time to enjoy a book, um, I do think that that could change the pace of things.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think reading is such a skill. I mean, it
Yeah.
it teaches us so much more. Uh, in one of the last sessions, I was talking with our other guest about how traveling and reading are so similar
Mm,
in terms of what it gives you. Do you
absolutely.
do you
You know
agree?
where I just went? I actually am excited that because I almost wore a sweatshirt and then I said, "Oh, I have to show up senatorially." But my sweatshirt that I wore, I got from Oxford. So I actually got to go there for a week just after session ended, which
Uh-huh.
talk about a place of academic. I mean, Oxford was a heck of a place
Hmm.
to be and to feel the brick and to know that, so many people have spent so much time reading and writing in this place. Now, you heard me talk about imperialism. I'm also that person of curiosity. So I also have a lot of mixed feelings when I go to places like Oxford,
Hmm.
because academic elitism is also a thing. But anyway, I got to go visit Blackwell's, which was
Oh.
the one of the biggest bookstores in the world. They say it's the biggest
Hmm.
bookstore in the world, but I'm trying to find out if that's still true. Someone told me that there might be some rivals, maybe in Bengal. I don't know. Because they never talk about, we're always
Yeah,
focusing on a Western narrative. So I am convinced that there are bigger
yeah.
bookstores in the East. But that to me, that traveling, the ability to just be for a little while. I'm also a mom of young children. So getting away for 4 or 5 days with the chance to read, write, and to be in a place like Oxford was incredible. But no, I think the two are the same. I mean, you hear some of the best authors in the world are often shaped very much by their travels. Even some of their works can change before travel and after travel or during travel. So I think that like ability to experience other people and experience other
Hmm.
things in a way that is outside of yourself is very similar to traveling. I mean, not if you stay in an all-inclusive. Like, let's just be clear for our readers. All traveling is not the same traveling.
Yeah.
But when you travel to really learn about people and are in that space, I think it's
Hmm.
it's a similar experience to reading a really good book.
Yeah. So, talk about some of your influences when, in terms of your work, in terms of your philosophy, leadership. What has made you the person you are?
Hmm.
Is there any particular reading, article, book, movies? Let's talk movies. We haven't spoken about
It's
movies
not movies.
or characters in
Yeah.
some movies.
You know, I found things in characters that I liked, but again, I never really found something that felt like it was like called to me specifically.
Hmm.
I kind of always felt like I was watching things and reading things that I wish I'm like, oh, this is fun to think about, or maybe, um, but I also am very much shaped by my generation in terms of the classics. I was, movies. There's a lot of critique that can come with this, but I loved Disney movies. I had every Disney on VHS. I was so enthralled by the idea of fairy tales when I was younger, that there was a magical experience that could exist somewhere. I have a lot of critique of the same Disney movies I watch now, and I'm having conversations with my daughters about, what has aged well. She's 3, so yeah,
Hmm.
we're starting slow. But I think, there was a movie that I really liked as a kid called Fried Green Tomatoes. It's a coming up experience that happened in the American South. It had a woman who really stood out and created a friendship with another woman who she was able to kind of survive relationships and abuse, and just a kind of an American tale of making it through life, which I found fascinating. When I was a kid, I liked The Sandlot, which was about a group of kids who just kind of rough and tumble, finding a way to play baseball. That related to me as an apartment kid in a way. We were always trying
Yeah.
to find things to play stickball with or whatever else. Um, as an adult, I don't, hmm. I liked The Butterfly Effect.
Hmm.
I thought that was a really cool movie. That probably comes to mind. I loved The Color Purple. Actually, I loved The Color Purple as a movie and a book. Um, that
That
was
was very powerful. Yeah, both of them.
very powerful.
And they were
I
both
will,
were amazingly done. I mean, the book is
yeah,
obviously solid, but they did really good job in making
really
a
good.
movie out of it.
Yeah, but there's also, um, of course, now it's escaping me because I'm on here with you. I should have written it down. I wrote all this stuff down. Uh, the movie that was Mamdani's mom directed it. It had Denzel Washington. Is it Monsoon
Oh,
Wedding?
huh?
Was it Monsoon Wedding? I can't remember.
Monsoon Wedding, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I watched that
Mira,
as a kid too because it was one of
oh,
the first, and I
Mira.
still like it because it was one of the first experiences that really talked about South Asian community and
Hmm.
sort of race, but this idea of South Asians also living amongst other communities. There's a book I read recently actually that ties that, Bengali Harlem.
Ah,
If you ever
yeah.
read a book, Bengali Harlem, and it
No,
also
I've not
talks
read
about
it,
the
but it's on my list. A friend
Oh,
of
the
mine
depth
recommended.
of the Bengali experience within the Black experience of America, and the idea that we found such deep connection and collaboration and a way to actually have business
Hmm.
across the South, and people thinking that, oh, like, people are new here. And I'm like, no, 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 we've adapted and found ways and paths in this country and throughout the world. And so that was so insightful for me. I felt like I was growing roots in America I didn't even know I had. And
Yeah.
the last one I'll leave with you, which is I think something that every American should read because it tells so much about who we are, and that is Multicultural America, which is a historical book that really talks about the true history and all the different groups that came and shaped and built and constructed this country, in addition to what was erased from the people that actually existed here. And I think that's powerful. Oh, and one more on a broad scale, Orientalism by Edward Said.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing
You will
classic.
learn a lot
Absolutely.
in unpacking
Yeah.
the experience, especially of
Yeah.
cultures that have been othered and
Yeah.
demonized in America by reading Orientalism. Profound
Hmm.
book.
And also, what a the audacity of that man,
The
being,
audacity.
yeah, to say what had to be said at that time in those times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
He
with
is
the
a,
Orientalism.
I wish I could. I actually thought about just printing out, or not printing out, but buying a bunch of copies of his book and giving it to my political colleagues,
Hmm.
especially in Congress.
Yeah, yeah, and for some reason, it's a very odd comparison. But I don't know why I thought so much about Edward Said when I was reading uh, Tim Snyder's book on tyranny. Timothy
Mm,
Snyder wrote a very tiny book. It's really a call to action, and
I've not read that.
you would really enjoy
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna
It's
write it
called
down.
On Tyranny by Tim Snyder, who was a Yale professor, and he
Mm,
wrote, and I think he's written another one. And the new graphic novel has just come out, so your kids would love it too. I just got one
nice.
for my 12-year-old. But
It's
last few minutes, Senator, I do want to get some recommendations from you, specifically for somebody who wants to understand our state or somebody who wants to understand
hmm.
Tacoma specifically, where we both are. What would you say? Where would they go? Where should they go? What should they read? What should they watch? Newspaper,
Well,
article?
one book that's just come out over the last year and written by someone who I admire so much from the Tacoma area is The History of the Puyallup Tribe, book by Ramona Bennett.
Remember that?
Ramona
Yeah,
Bennett just wrote a book, and it is so fascinating. I actually got to honor her recently at an event. But I think the story of Indigenous rights in Washington
mhm.
State, the story of Indigenous peoples, half of the of where I come from is the Scandinavian roots of Pacific Northwest. I think we have a lot of history that is talked about in that way. But we also have, I think, a really unique opportunity in the Pacific Northwest to really understand Indigenous people and Native people. They are here, they're everywhere. They are not a distant, memory.
Yeah.
And I think from the Puyallup tribe, especially for Tacoma,
Hmm.
that is something that I would highly recommend that everyone read. And she does, I think the book does such a good job of sort of grasping the actual, like the things that happened. And boy, Ramona's got some experiences. Okay. You don't
Yeah.
you don't know what it means to fight, I guess, until you've been pregnant and shot at fighting for the rights of your people. So
Hmm.
I would highly recommend that book.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure that
great.
other people have other stories, but I think that is one that it's a gem to have that right now in our community.
Yeah, and what a great life. Ramona's life has been just so inspirational. I wish
And
more and more people and teachers and educators talk about her in the classroom.
I agree. And you know that scene in Heard, the thing that I really loved when I got to meet Ramona a number of years back, and I've been able to meet with her in her home, and um, is that she doesn't ever change. Like she is like, you are gonna see and hear me for exactly who I am. And I've seen her around, elected officials. I've seen her in other spaces, and she will correct you and she will speak up and she will speak clearly. I mean, she's a little older now.
Hmm.
But I think that is something where it's like, well, what is it? If I imagine if you ask her what it means to be seen and heard, she said, I'm going to make sure I'm seen and heard. And that is a
Yeah,
beautiful thing. I admire it deeply. It's so different from South Asian culture, right?
it
There
is.
are
It's
some
very
pieces
different.
where it's like you're not supposed to necessarily fight
Yeah,
to be seen and heard. But
yeah.
you can imagine both my personality and my perspective has made me a very challenging child, but I hope I've made my mom proud.
You did. You
Yeah.
made all of us proud. Yasmin, thank you so much. And before we finish, I do want to ask you some other questions about, how we have spoken a lot about your books that you read, what inspired
Yeah.
you. But tell us a little bit about when do you read? Do you prefer a time,
Hmm.
a certain time of the day?
Well, the time to read, yes, is very, very difficult. But I read to my children every night. So
Oh,
being able to read to them and see that joy and that spark is really important. I've always read to them since they were babies. That was something that I felt like was just important to me. Both of them are very articulate. My 7-year-old, reads at a fifth grade level.
mhm,
So it's quite remarkable. He reads chapter books. And I also have a younger brother with disabilities, pretty significant disabilities, who I read to religiously when he was a child and got to watch him really develop language skills that no one even believed he could have. So I
mhm,
think my joy of reading over the last couple of years has been really focused on that.
mhm.
Unless I can get away, I read on airplanes. If I travel places, I like that. That gives me a chance to sit and read. In airports, same thing. If I don't have any place to go, but yeah, those are spaces where I think if I think about having to open my phone for more than 20 minutes, I bring a book.
Mhm.
And then I can read like a chapter or something like that without having to sort of doom scroll. Um, so that's where I try to bring in bite-sized pieces. But I finished two
Okay.
books while I was in Oxford for the week. So that was
Wow,
really
that's
nice.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Paper books or digital books? What do you like?
Paper books. Yeah,
Paper books.
I should have grabbed now I'm not going to remember the title. I have the book, like the one that I just finished. I am so ill prepared. I apologize.
And
Uh,
No worry. And you were mentioning Mamdani's mom, Meera Nair,
Oh yeah.
and Monsoon Wedding is what a film it is. Oh my God. I wish they could make it again, something like that. It's so
I know.
refreshing.
And
I
for its
mean,
time, everything,
yeah,
I remember watching it just being like, there, what?
yeah.
Yeah, with my mom, who
Yeah.
also
Oh,
loves
oh,
Denzel Washington. So I don't know what it is
okay.
about the South Asian aunties, but I have found out that they all love Denzel. So I don't know if that was her ploy. Or she's like, we're gonna bring in Denzel because all the aunties are gonna be good with Denzel. No, yeah, I agree. Really, I actually got to go meet with Mamdani the weekend before he won his election
Mhm.
and got to meet her. I was
Yeah,
standing next to
I
her
saw those
while we were
pictures.
on
They were
stage.
wonderful. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know. They think, oh, Meera Nair is Mamdani's mom. Mamdani is
Oh,
really Meera
her
Nair's
son.
son. Yes. Meera Nair
Absolutely. No,
is,
everyone I was with was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just want to go say hi." I was like, "She's not gonna," and that's what I did. I said, "I'm so sorry. This is gonna be weird, but I think you're awesome." And she was like, "Thank you so much." And everybody's crowding around Mamdani. But yeah, if you know, you know.
yeah, Meera
He's
Nair has been
incredible.
a wonderful filmmaker, and she made Salam Bombay, which is one of my favorite movies. And Salam Bombay is very centered around street children in Delhi, where I grew up. And when she made the film and when the film was over, she just couldn't just go away. She said, I have all these connections with street children. I have to do something. So she founded Salam Bombay Foundation, Salam Balak Trust, which I had a honor of working with very briefly. But what a fascinating and inspiring person she is.
Indeed.
And it's so not possible to listen to Mamdani and not see Mira in him.
I
Everything.
totally agree. I totally agree. And I don't know that I want my children to do what calls to them,
Mhm.
whatever that is. But there is something profound, I think, even when I was seeing them both on stage together, to imagine that she, her taking the time and the diligence and producing curiosity in him and probably exposing him to books and literature and experiences that, maybe even she didn't get to have or whatever that looks like. I hope it made me very hopeful for my children that someday they might see the work that I do and feel inspired to really have a call to action to help in their community, whatever way that is, whether it's on stage or not
Mhm.
on stage at all. I don't, I wouldn't want to hoist any of those that onto my children. I really want them to discover who they are. Um, but it was really powerful to be on there and to recognize like, oh no, wait, you did this. This
Mhm.
was your boy, And I look at my boy and I'm like, I hope you will just have a little bit of that same love and respect and curiosity that she was able to do. So it was a very powerful experience for me on many levels.
Yeah,
And I
and
read his
Mamdani's.
book. Actually, I got his book, and I read that on the way back. Run, Zoran, Run. It's an
Oh,
incredible book about his rise, meteoric rise, kind of out of
mhm.
nowhere in some ways in New York politics. So I would recommend that too. I think anybody who's interested in that political story should absolutely read that book.
And now that you have mentioned Mira Nair, I have to mention Mamdani's dad. He wrote a book called Good
Oh yeah,
Muslim, Bad Muslim. It's one of the best books. I think in the intercultural world, people should read that book.
I
Um,
so agree with you. And as somebody who is often, when you think about that being seen and being heard, the weight of trying to explain to folks that Muslims are Christians, are Buddhists, are, we're just when I passed the Eid bill to recognize Eid as a holiday, I said, I just want you to see us as obnoxiously average as we are. There are
yeah,
good and bad in
yeah.
every single person. It is not
Hmm.
tied. And so I'm so glad that you brought up that book. Because there's so much that I have to unpack with people
Yeah.
about faith in that way, even in a country where we say religious liberties is enshrined in our First Amendment of our Constitution, which and that, again is other writing that a lot of Americans should read the Constitution.
Yes.
It's a worthy read.
It,
It's a worthy
and
read. I studied it.
it's not very long.
It's not very long.
Yeah, you
It is
can
not
carry it in
indeed.
your small pocket. Last 1 minute, let's talk about food. Food
Mm.
and reading and literature go together. When you're reading or when you're thinking of reading, what do you eat?
Well, I mean, you brought up like Bengali, love of reading. It's also a love of food.
Yeah,
So,
Rasgulla.
I mean, so it's kind of goes hand in hand. You're absolutely right. I never thought about it that way though. Um, well, I mean, when you're reading a book, I like snacking. I
Yeah,
really like dried chili mangoes. Dried chili
dried chili
mangoes.
mango.
Yeah, you can get them now at a lot of corner stores in Washington. You didn't used to be able to. They're in a lot of Mexican markets. You can find them. You can also find them at South Asian markets. There's a lot of overlap, by the way, with this chili, lime,
Yeah.
salt, onion, and tomato. That combo is.
I have not tried. I
I'm
have
telling you,
tried
I
dry
can eat
mangoes.
yeah, it's like yeah, dried mangoes and they have chili on them, and that is I can eat that snack. It's not the best for my diabetes, to be fair, which is why it's something that's an indulgence. But as far as the food that I could eat anytime, anywhere is probably dal. I can eat dal no matter what. And I guess for people that don't know what that is, it's like a lentil
Lentils.
um soup, but
Uh-huh.
we eat it on rice, we eat it by itself, we eat it. It's like what the staple I ate when I could eat nothing else when I was pregnant. So dal is like something where I keep it in my freezer. My aunt makes it. It's actually simple to make, but I don't, my auntie makes it. There's just something good about it.
Yeah,
So that's,
dal. And you mentioned now you have started a whole new conversation. I have to stop it. I don't want to take more time. You have gone in you've pressed the very wrong button, but okay, we'll some other day. But if you go to Vinco in the bulk food area,
yeah,
you have all kinds of dry this, dry that, and it is such a nostalgic place for me. When I go there, there is dry mango, but it doesn't have
yeah.
chili. So I have to
I
try
know.
it.
See,
The
that's
chili
a,
part is missing. That I think that's the thing you are bringing in now.
yeah, I like the dried fruits too. I snack a lot, and because of my diabetes, actually keeping dried fruit is actually not a bad thing. It's the indulgence part. But we could have a whole conversation about food. I know you mentioned as soon as you mentioned, Bangladesh, I'm like when it comes to language, literature, food, I mean,
And the combination of all,
yeah,
in collective cultures, they all go together.
it's true.
Unlike, look, for example, in the West, food is food. You go eat food, and it's so common for me to talk to friends and say, "Hey, let's go eat," and I would hear, "Oh, I'm dieting," "Oh, I'm not hungry," and it is
Or it's
such
a
a shock to
formalized
me.
experience
It's a very formalized
as opposed to
experience.
just that is something that between sort of two cultures, the idea of sitting and enjoying your food without pretension,
Hmm.
I wish it on so many people. Because I do, because the amount of time to think about table manners, I think it
Mm,
does disrupt your ability to just be joyous while you eat.
yeah,
So that is something I struggle with. I really, when I go to formal dinners and events, it is very hard for me to enjoy my food.
yeah, me
It
too.
just it takes it away. So
I, yeah. Yeah, and also eating food as a way to come together, eating
yeah,
for conversation, eating for memory, eating for nostalgia, eating not because you're hungry.
totally.
That's the least of the purposes of the food in collective culture. We don't eat
Yeah.
because we are hungry. There's a lovely film called Delhi Che in India, and there's a scene in it in which Abhishek Bachchan, who you know, Abhishek is a big actor. What is it?
Yeah.
Amitabh Bachchan's son. he I shouldn't say that. He's an actor in his own way. But there's a scene in the movie in which he's going on a rickshaw in Old Delhi, which is a very crowded part of India, and the rickshaw wala who's peddling. He's telling him, "Go fast, go fast. I have to go. I have to meet this blah blah." And rickshaw wala is really going fast for him. And they get down. He goes and finishes his meeting, comes back, sits back on the rickshaw, and then the rickshaw wala is going, and the rickshaw wala says, "Let's go eat." And he says, "I'm not hungry." And
Mm,
rickshawala stops, turns back, looks at him in the eye and say, "Animals eat for hunger. Humans
mm,
eat for relationships."
mm,
And it was so profound. And that line I have never forgotten ever since I have left India and I've come far away from my brothers and sisters, especially my mom, like you, she's in Delhi. And just the way I miss her. And so much of it has to goes back to food.
Hmm.
she talking about food, or she uh, going out shopping with us and showing us certain
Hmm.
kind, hey, read this, see this, pick this, put that back. She was the boss of the house. She ran the
Hmm.
house for us. But we as immigrants, the nostalgia in written words, in grocery
Hmm.
shops, when I see mango, fried mango, dry mango brings all kind of memories.
Absolutely.
There is a grocery shop in Puyallup where I go, and I just spend 2, 3 hours just looking at things. And there's a 20-year-old who laughs at me. He said, "You are crazy." Because I just stand there and I look at things, and it reminds me of home in those little
Absolutely.
sachet.
No, you bring up something that I actually just recently experienced and have been reflecting on. So when I was young, like first came to America, we were moved down to Lacey, which is like down by Olympia area, about 30
Mhm,
minutes south of Tacoma.
mhm,
And we would never have any place to buy a lot of the foods. So my mom would always make a plan. Once a month, we would go up to Kent, and there's a grocery store that's been there forever, and we would go in there and we would do all of our shopping, and she would get everything, and I was just a kid, and honestly I was kind of annoyed because it was not a shiny grocery store and I had to come along, and I'm just like, come on, mom.
mhm,
And my auntie, who runs a community center down, and Kate does catering now for Bengali
mhm,
food, which is
mhm.
amazing. That's why she buys me things or brings me things in bulk. Um, and
Yeah.
she said, "Hey, I'm going up to Kent. I'm grabbing a couple things." And I was kind of surprised because we've got a lot more access now. In the Whole Foods, they've got things that they never had in other places and stuff before. But I said, "Okay, well, I'll go along with you." And I went into this little market, and I just walked through the aisles. I said, "Give me a second." And I just kind of touched the things, and then I decided, oh, I want to get these frozen parathas. I knew these when I was little, and being able to just put it and fry it really quick. I don't know. I just had this whole moment, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I missed it. It's just this hole in
Yeah.
the wall, for the most part,
Mhm,
not a glamorous grocery store. The same owners, they get the rickety little tiny carts that go across, but they got the butcher in there. And anyway, yeah, I know it does make you think about it. And my mom isn't far away, but her health is very poor. So she doesn't cook anymore and she doesn't get out of the
mhm,
house very much. And um, but yeah, you do miss that connection. And I think about her a lot as I'm thinking about these things because I imagine how sad it is for her. She grew up
mm.
immersed in a village experience, and to come over here, yeah, must be a profound loneliness. I wish I could give her books.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really
but
do.
all of this is such a profound and integral part of being an American. This is very
Yeah,
unique. So many of us don't realize that this is very uniquely American for people to come here from all parts of the
right.
world, leaving their families behind, missing homes, missing aisles and,
Hmm.
small shops and noise and, right-hand driving and
Yeah,
roads.
it's
It is so unique to America. The idea of America is just not possible without people coming here from different parts of the world and missing their moms and going and standing in grocery shops looking at the small shampoo sachet because it
that's
reminds them of
right.
their home.
And
Because
it's a
they said,
reminder, part of the book
"Mhm,
that I want to write, I want it to be a reminder that that is America. I don't know what has happened. I think a lot of us are trying to sort of scramble and explain. But that American experience was the experience for the vast majority of
mhm,
people that are still here, whether it was theirs or their great grandparents. And so I think that destigmatization, that feeling seen and heard, the ability to tell the story that is uniquely and objectively American, like it feels almost like now's the time to remind each other, of who we are, of the richness that we all bring,
mhm,
and what we bring here. And I think that feels more relevant now than ever, which feels, to think that we have more to do even 30 plus years later from when I immigrated to the United States is
mhm."
we got a lot to do. We have a lot of books to give out. We
Yeah,
need people reading and eating. I'm on this with you.
and hang out with people you like and read with them and eat with them, and
That's
then
true.
I think that builds the world that we all yearn for. It's not that
Absolutely.
hard to build that beautiful world. It's just really few steps away. And food
Absolutely.
and books are our best
Food and
bet.
books, the great unifier.
And add some chai there too. I'll throw in some
Yeah,
couple of
it's
cups of
true.
chai.
Although I'm interesting because I don't like milk in my chai.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
I'm like that. I thought that I was so weird growing up. I'm not a big fan of milk anyway, which is also strange. But I found out when I went to Bangladesh, I felt so seen because you can
Mm-hmm.
just ask for rang cha and
Uh-huh.
it doesn't have any milk in it. And I messaged my mom and I said I needed to come back to the motherland to be seen. Everyone makes milk in their chai, and I was
Yeah.
like, so
And yep, and you can still throw in a cardamom and you can still add
it's
some
true.
ginger and
I
it
still will drink milk chai. It's just the preference. I'm not
okay.
disrespectful. I still love a good chai no matter where it comes from.
Okay, well, I have a recipe. We'll have chai together
Okay.
sometime. You can add a little bit of chai with milk.
Okay.
But thank
Deal.
you so much, Yasmin. It is so wonderful to hear your story, and it's so important for us to know your story. And you have been so candid. And thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time. We look forward to talking more. I think we
Thank you.
owe each other another session for food.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you because you are bringing, this experience and this just this work to Tacoma. And I think Tacoma has a lot of stories to tell. I think Tacoma
Yeah,
has been in the shadows in a lot of ways, and we have so much to talk about in this city. So many people from other places that have come here and made it their home over the different generations for different reasons. And I love this place. So I want more of us to tell our stories. So thank you, honestly. Thank you very much.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're
Have a good
awesome.
day. You have a
All right. Let me
lovely
know
rest
when you
of the
want to talk
Monday.
food and chai next time. I like
We will.
we could
Yes,
talk for a while. And
we
I want
will.
and I do want to thank you. Not a lot of people really dig into me and ask me questions about my Bengali identity or any of those things, especially if they're South Asian, because they just, perceive me and the way that I talk and stuff as it. So I want to thank you that this was a really nice opportunity to talk. Thank you for
Thank
seeing
you,
me.
Anna. Oh, you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, it would be hard to talk to you without asking all those questions. I know it's very close to your heart, and
Yeah.
I when I met you a couple of times at community events, I could tell
Thank you.
how
Well,
dear it
same.
is.
We've got a lot more to do,
We have a lot
and
more to.
I'm on it with you.
Thank you.
Okay.